Welcome, everybody, to Law&Crime Daily. I'm Jesse Weber. Two women known for their YouTube channels on parenting and religion appeared in a Utah courtroom for the very first time on Friday. They're both charged with felony child abuse. Ruby Franke lives in Utah with her husband and 6 children. Their YouTube channel, called 8 Passengers, had more than 2 million subscribers before it was taken down earlier this year. According to a probable cause affidavit, Franke and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt, were both arrested last week. Franke's 12-year-old son had climbed out of a window at Hildebrandt's house and gone to a neighbor. He was emaciated with open wounds and had duct tape on his wrists and ankles. Franke's 10-year-old daughter was found in very similar conditions inside the home. Both children were taken to the hospital, while the other 4 children were placed in the care of Utah's Division of Child and Family Services. Both Franke and Hildebrandt are facing 6 counts of felony child abuse. There have been reports over the years that Franke might be abusing her children based on what viewers saw in her videos, but it seems nothing came of these reports until now. Franke often collaborated with Hildebrandt on parenting and childcare videos. YouTube confirmed that it shut down 2 channels associated with Franke during Friday's hearing. We learned that Franke and Hildebrandt will both be held without bail for now. A bail hearing is scheduled for a few weeks from now. So let's talk about it with my co-hosts, my legal analyst, Terry Austin, Brian Buckmeyer. Good to see you both. Terry, I'm going to start with you. State has like a lot of video evidence in this case. How do you think that's going to play a factor?
Well, I think what the defendants are going to claim is, look, you have good video, you have bad video. You see, as we just saw, the children happy and they are playing and they are healthy. So I think the videos can cut both ways. I think they're also going to say no one was harmed. Now, clearly we know that the young boy did have cuts and bruises, but for the most part, I think that they're going to try to say that there wasn't any serious bodily harm. They've been charged with, as we know, this abuse, and it's a felony under Utah law, and it's a serious felony. It's a second-degree felony. So I think that they're going to try to say, look, there wasn't that serious bodily harm. We didn't abuse them. We thought that under our faith, this is what we're supposed to do. I don't think these defenses are going to hold up, but I think that's what they're going to say.
The way that I read it, she's charged, 6 charges, and with respect to, just to give you one, the young boy, it could either be torture, it could be starvation, it could be emotional or developmental harm. So it's kind of broad about what child abuse could mean here with respect to the injuries. Walk me through the bail, the bond issue there. Any chance she could get out before trial?
I think it's more of a question as to what their finances are. I think this is, again, a horrible, horrible case. But it's not a homicide case. We're typically used to those murder cases where they're remanded, no amount of bond or bail will get them out. I think that there will be some amount of bond or bail. I think the strongest argument the defense would have is she can't see her children. She's accused of abusing her children. She'll never be able to repeat this charge again. The court can issue restraining orders where she cannot speak to or reach out to her children. Of course, they're out of her custody. I would imagine a very high amount of bail or bond. The question is whether or not they'll be able to make it. I think there are some arguments there for the defense, but for the prosecution, the arguments to keep her in are very strong. The idea of the level of the crime and the strength of the case, I think this is an easily provable case based on what you just said, the broadness of what abuse is in this case. If it's not the injuries that we heard in the 911 call or what we're going to likely hear from the medical reports, it's just the emotional effect that it's going to have on these children. I'm thinking we're going to hear from social workers who interview these children afterwards and hear, wow, these are not healthy, normal children as we expect them to be in the state of Utah. This is something that has happened to these children over a long period of time, and they're really emotionally damaged.
And she can't say she didn't know what was happening, because my understanding is she filmed a YouTube video in that house, like 2 days prior when the children were there.
Oh, that's right. She knew what was going on. They collaborated and did the same thing to the children.
That's the allegation. We're going to talk more about it, because still ahead on Law&Crime Daily, there is lots more to talk about in this case. And we got our hands on the 911 phone call that a neighbor made when one of Franke's emaciated children showed up on his doorstep. Stay with us. Welcome back to Law&Crime Daily, everybody. Our coverage of the YouTube mom charged with child abuse continues now as we hear the 911 phone call that first alerted police to the most recent allegations against her. Correspondent Sierra Gillespie has all the details.
This kid has obviously been, I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
We're taking a closer look at the case of Ruby Franke, the YouTuber mom now accused of child abuse. For the first time, we're hearing the chilling 911 call and emergency radio communications after Franke's son escaped from her business partner's home and was found emaciated with open wounds.
He asked us to call the police. So he's very afraid.
That 911 call came in just before 11 a.m. on August 30th. A neighbor in Ivins, Utah, a remote area about 4 hours south of Salt Lake City, reported a 12-year-old boy showed up at his house asking for help.
911, the address of your emergency. Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help.
The caller then references problems at the neighbor's home before explaining the boy arrived looking emaciated with duct tape around his wrists and ankles.
We know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
Officials later determined the boy's mother is Ruby Franke, the YouTuber behind the 8 Passengers channel. Once boasting more than 2 million subscribers, the channel is now defunct after being terminated.
My gosh, you guys, having kids is so much fun.
On her YouTube channel, Franke documented the lives of her 6 children and husband, Kevin, recording videos about everything from home renovations to back-to-school shopping. But Franke's strict mothering tactics came under fire long before her arrest.
And my kids are literally starving. I hesitate to say this because it's going to sound like I'm like a mean barbarian, but I told the kids, I said, I'm not even going to let you eat breakfast until you get your chores done.
In the past, Franke had addressed critics, saying she wouldn't stop mothering her way.
Online who hate me, who would like to cancel me, who would like to see me either burn in hell, as I have told, or disappear off the face of the earth, and I'm not going anywhere.
First responders also mentioned Jodi Hildebrandt, whose home Franke's son escaped from. Franke and Hildebrandt have a past relationship, collaborating on parenting videos. Reporting for Law&Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Let's talk about that 911 phone call, Brian. I have to imagine if there's a trial that's coming in there, how bad is that for the defense?
Oh, Jesse, it's not just the playing of the 911 call. It's the fact that to get it into evidence, you'll probably get the man on that phone describing, what did you see? What did you feel? Well, why did you use the word hunger or duct tape or like all of that? What made you think that this was going on, that this child was being starved? And I can only imagine, and I can kind of hear it in the man's voice, is kind of unsteady. Maybe he's a father. Maybe he's thinking, this child came to me. Maybe there's a sense of guilt. He said, we've had problems with these people in the past. The way that that witness will describe that 911 call, I think if it is not the nail in the coffin, it is definitely one of many that could be in this case.
And usually they start these cases with the 911 phone call and that person. Terry, a lot of people were critical of her for a long time. People were suspecting there was abuse. I think about the Department of Child and Family Services, and I think about whether or not they're going to have a role. Would they be held legally responsible at all? What do you think?
I think the answer is yes. I mean, the good news is these children survived. Oftentimes we see cases like this where they're not rescued in time and they don't survive. Here they survive. So I think that's working in favor of the department. But you see, as we just heard from Brian, the desperation of this neighbor on that 911 call. He is saying the children are emaciated. This has been going on for a long time. People have complained. The thing I don't understand, Jesse, is they canceled the show. Why didn't, at that point in time, the department come in and say something is going on here? It was enough for the network to notice. Why not for the department to notice as well? And so I do think there could be a claim against them. The claim that all these people have complained, and if they had intervened sooner, perhaps that these, abuse accusations could not be made because they would have saved them beforehand. So I think there's a possibility.
What I take away from it too is that RF, this is the young boy, these are the initials that he went by in the affidavit, knew enough to know this was wrong. Because sometimes we see in these cases the children are manipulated, they don't realize what it's wrong. Enough to run to a neighbor for help and ask that, he's starving, he's hungry, he's thirsty, and to call authorities. I think that's a significant point.